صدق الله العظيم. Jazakallah khair. Khalid, do you want me to go through some of the housekeeping before we begin?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So welcome everyone. Just a couple of housekeeping tips for the meeting today. So everyone will stay muted during the presentation. Please write your questions in the comment box. Kashan will be monitoring, and then he'll be taking all the questions and will be asking in sequence. So feel free to put your comments there, and also any portion that you like, any other comments, general comments, feel free to use the chat box to put your comments there. And we will be looking forward to your comments during the presentation and also after. So with that, over to you, Khalid.
Thank you, Shahid. May I request Nazli to introduce, to come in and give a few words as well here.
Thank you, Khalid Nazim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Most of us are from NED Alumni Association Canada, who knows me that I'm president with them. I know there are a few people from outside NEDAC. That's why I just want to introduce myself. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for taking time out from your busy schedule for this informative webinar. I know today is the working day, and some of you might be sitting on your working desk to attend this webinar. Thank you very much. A special thanks to some of them who logged in from outside Canada. I know some of the registrant who are from UK, US, and Middle East. And I think a couple of them are from Pakistan. And they confirmed me this morning that is it 3 a.m. Pakistan time? And I said yes. So hopefully they will join, or maybe they are already there. Let me quickly introduce our Professional Development Committee because they are the integral part of today's program. Our Professional Development Committee consists of Arshad Azhar, our NEDAC Vice President. He's a highway design engineer with the Ministry of Transportation, Ontario. Then we have Khalid Nazim. Khalid Nazim is a mechanical professional, currently working as Regional Supply Management Leader for Honeywell Canada. Amar Baligh. He is a civil engineer working as assistant superintendent with the noted contractor Alice Dawn, and Kashanul Hassan, mechanical engineer working with the pressure vessel engineering, and of course myself. Without these people's tireless efforts, we would not have been able to arrange today's event. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication. Please feel free to contact them or myself. They are available to help you with any kind of professional support. Of course, within our capacity, we can help you. So please feel free to contact us anytime if you need any kind of support in your professional career. Energy transition from, actually, I learned a little bit from Faisal yesterday when we had a little introduction. So I thought maybe I can say a few words about that too. Energy transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy is essential to mitigate the effect of climate change. Decarbonization of the energy sector requires urgent action on a global scale. We chose this as our first topic due to its importance and impact on our day-to-day life. With Mr. Faisal Qazi, industry expert on the subject, I can assure you this will be a very informative session. I would like to thank Mr. Faisal for having spared some time for us from your busy schedule. Thank you very much. Without further ado, I would like to invite Khalid Nazim, member of our PDC, to move the program forward. Khalid Nazim.
Yeah, thank you, Nazli. A few words of introduction of our esteemed speaker, Mr. Faisal Qazi. Faisal is president and CEO of Siemens Canada, where he is responsible for leading the overall strategic management, direction, and leadership of all activities of Siemens Canada. Faisal has worked globally for Siemens since 1990 in roles of increasing responsibilities in multiple businesses and functions. He's an electrical engineer from UET Lahore with an MBA from University of Edinburgh. Faisal is also a member of Business Council of Canada, is on the board of directors of the Toronto Board of Trade and the Canadian German Chamber of Industry and Commerce, as well as board member of several Siemens affiliate companies in Canada. He's deeply passionate about giving back to the community in both his professional and personal roles, which is why he immediately accepted our invitation to speak to our members and guests through this webinar. So with such an amazing career, vast organizational and global experience, Faisal is uniquely positioned to present to us how he sees the transitioning of energy usage in the rapidly changing world of today, identify the challenges to overcome and the opportunities to avail due to this transition. So over to you, Faisal.
Oh, sorry, I think I was mute. Maybe I say it again. Thank you, Khalid and Nazli, for having me in this session, and a good evening to everyone who has joined. And I hope this session will be useful. So it's an honor to be here. I will just share my presentation. So just give me 1 minute. Can you see the slides? Can you see them?
Yes, we can. Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so as Khalid already mentioned, we're going, and Nazlin also mentioned, we're going to talk about energy transition. And I upfront wrote energy transition to an all-electric world. And this is how I see that. Before we jump into the topic, I would like to shortly introduce my company. So for those who don't know Siemens, Siemens is one of the largest technology, engineering and technology company in the world. It's a German company. It's 174 years old. So we operate in 190 countries with around 300,000 employees. So we're very international. So we always within Siemens ask ourselves the question, yeah, how have we survived for 172 years? Because if you look at the Fortune 500 magazine, and if you have an archive of that, you see quite a few companies who were really large 10, 15 years ago have not survived, or they no longer exist. So we feel we have two elements in our company which make us special. The first one being we call it business to society. We believe that the purpose of a company is to give back to the society. So we are a very social company, always looking forward to create value in the society. And that's what we call business to society. We have KPIs, we measure it. And secondly, the core of our company is innovation. We spend about $5.5 billion euros every year on innovation. What that does is we have about, on an average year, around 7,000 inventions. So just if you do the math, every working day, 33 inventions happen at Siemens. So just today, Siemens colleagues around the world would have invented 33 new things. And this is very powerful because we are a company who are always transforming ourselves. And that is the reason that we have been very early on engaged in energy transition and have been part of almost all the energy transition projects in the world. So let's jump into this very interesting topic. I'm very passionate about it myself, been working for this for a long time. I was heading the transmission business in North America, also US. So I got a good feel on how this is working. So I start by saying we are going through transformation. And it's not a small transformation. For all those who have been in the electricity sector, there has been a time 5-10 years ago where the electricity sector has been considered to be a conservative sector. All the technologies are old, like transformers, the switch gears. It's nothing too much new. But what we are now experiencing is something which happens not every day, and people say happens every maybe 100 years, really a big transformation. And why is this happening? I think we all have understand, we have seen now also what's going on in British Columbia, that climate change is real. I think there's been a doubt in the past, but I think everybody is now understanding that it's real. And we know now, as per the report from the scientists, that no action will result in a 4-degree increase in the global temperature. And what it would do is it could endanger about more than 300 million people around the world with rising sea levels. That's like the population of United States of America. So many people would be impacted. Now we also know that current global population is about 7.6 billion, and by 2050 this will reach 10 billion. So the 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 usage of resources will suddenly increase because we will add 2.5 billion people on the planet, and they also need energy, they also need resources. And that is why it is extremely important, it's critical that we decarbonize the energy sector. And this commitment is going to, we are seeing commitment from all the governments. We see also in Canada a very solid commitment in the COPs, and this is going to drive us to an all-electric world. Another thing which is happening is we are, at the same time as we are worrying about climate change, the fourth industrial revolution is happening. And I said fourth, the first industrial revolution was when the steam engine was invented. So it revolutionized an industry. The second one was when electric drives and electric motors were invented, and you could use electrical power to, do work, to run industries. Third one in the 70s came with the chip technology, with automation, where you could automate, factories, automate processes. And now the fourth industrial revolution is basically converging the physical and the virtual worlds together. And we call it, a lot of people call digitalization. Everybody's talking about digitalization. And so this all combined, that's why I started by saying we are going through a big transformation. And we have already, all of us sitting in this conference, just the fact that we are about 50, 60 people together in different locations is a revolution if you compare with 20 years ago, that we can sit together. So we all have experienced digitalization in our personal lives. And like if you look at music, we used to go and buy CDs. Now we all stream it. People used to go to the bank. Now we can all do this on our smartphone. So this fourth industrial revolution, so the digitalization, what you are seeing in your personal lives is now coming to the industry. And this is going to change a lot of things in the industry. So now what has happened is we were already in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. We are making strong commitments towards climate change, and then COVID hit us. But what has COVID done? It has fast-tracked the fourth industrial revolution by 5 times what we all had thought of. So immediately, like that, we all are working from home, a lot of digital enterprises are coming, small and medium enterprises. So this is why it's a very, very transformative time, and it's very, very actually exciting, and it's a huge opportunity to add value. So this is, now let's look at how this impacts the energy sector, the electrical energy sector. So now on this slide, you see I combine electricity, transportation, and infrastructure. Traditionally, you would look at transportation sector as a fossil fuel industry. You put petrol in your cars, it's steel. Infrastructure is buildings and steel. But this is all about to change. Transportation sector and the infrastructure sector are going to converge with the electricity sector. And I will explain to you how that will happen. So let's start with the pure electric energy sector. So this picture shows this, the increase in non-hydro renewable based on the commitments of the different governments and also the next generation and a lot of people. They do not want fossil fuel generation. The society doesn't want it. So this will drive non-hydro renewable. We are, I think, very fortunate people who are in Canada that we have a very strong hydro generation base. So our energy is uh, very clean. But if you compare with some other countries, even our neighbors in the US, there's a lot of coal, there's been a lot of natural gas there. So there's a lot of work needs to be done to decarbonize the sector. Nevertheless, this will increase. This is a bit older chart from 2016, and I would say that this increase will be even more. So it will be wind power, solar power, geothermal, etc. So now when we are going towards these renewable energy, what does it really mean? What does it mean for the system? Because most of us are engineers, and we have designed the system. So what it does is we are coming from a world of centralized generation, large generation plants, hydropower, nuclear, coal-fired, unidirectional flow of energy from generation to the consumer. So we step the energy up to transformer stations, we transport it, we step it down to medium voltage, then to low voltage into our homes or into the industry. So very simple, centralized generation, unidirectional flow of energy. When we start adding renewables, what happens is the energy system goes through a fundamental change. It's no longer centralized and unidirectional. It becomes a distributed energy system and becomes bidirectional. Because if I put solar panel on my home, I can even put it back the energy into the grid. So it's and this is what is a bit complicating this energy transition. So as I said, being a global company, we have been part of almost all energy transition projects in the world. And I will just share with you some of the challenges early adopters face. Like I lived in Germany for many years, and Germany is one of the countries which really started on the energy transition. We call it the Energiewende. So, changing, transitioning the energy. So I will start from the top right. These are challenges which can be overcome. There are technologies to overcome them, but I think we have to understand what are the challenges in order to facilitate energy transition. The first challenge is about balancing demand and supply of energy, because it's just like the market. There's a demand of electricity, somebody has to produce it, and this has to be balanced. If it is not balanced, it will be a blackout, so people will not have energy. Now, the renewable energy sources are intermittent in nature. This means we cannot rely 100% on them, because I cannot say when the sun will be shining and when the wind will be blowing. So even if I have a gigawatt of wind energy, and if the wind is not blowing, at that very moment, I have zero. So imagine we invest in a gigawatt of wind and I have zero energy there. And this is a challenge. How do we balance this demand and supply? This leads to the element which a lot of utilities around the world or system operators face, is about management of the peak. Because how do you ensure that when there is a high peak, you have that ability to fulfill that peak and not go into blackouts? And this is called peak power. So this comes, from peaker plants or, plants which are fossil generated. And this power is expensive. So there is a challenge to manage for the utilities to make sure that there is power all the time. Now, the other element, if I go down right below, is a resilience issue. I already mentioned that the system is not designed for this distributed energy multi-direction flow. So there is a system design which has to be checked. There is in North America an average more than 40 years old install base. So this install base anyway needs some update. And what we are seeing is that the weather-related events like ice storms, etc., are increasing, leading to blackouts. So there is resiliency issues. Old system has a system change, needs to be upgraded, and increased weather-related events. So a lot of investment needs to go into this. What it does, if I go to the left side, starting from the bottom, we see an overall increase in costs because most of the countries who started on the journey of energy transition uh, first start with feed-in tariffs and say, okay, if you put a solar panel like in Germany, you had a guaranteed rate where you could sell it back to the grid, and which was actually very lucrative and which resulted in 33%, almost 30% of solar power in Germany by privately owned people because they captured on these tariffs. Subsidies were provided, etc. And then, but what happens with that is that it increases the costs. And for all of us who are living in Ontario, we saw that it was quite challenging because the costs went up of electricity, and also if you look at some of the jurisdictions, the performance of the system availability went down. So this is a challenge, and when the prices went up, and people who live in Ontario, we know about this global adjustment, which is a special charge which comes if you use energy in the peak. It's expensive. So what did the industry start doing? Saying, okay, I create my own power, and this power is created behind the meter. So even in many areas, there are hundreds of megawatts of power which is not visible because which is behind the meter. So what the utility sees is a loss in usage because the consumer is using that its own source, which is in the backyard, and that's what we call prosumers. So producers and users of electricity itself. So more people, when they put solar behind the meter, it reduces the revenue of the utility because less energy is being sold because people are using their own energy, and this increases the price again because our utility regulation is it's based on rate base, asset base. So it increases price, and we have seen that in Nevada. There are very quickly a lot of people, because the sun was there, very lucrative to go on their own energy, and that gives, of course, entry to new business models and creates new market forces. So all in all, just to summarize, and we can go into detail of each element, but just to summarize, energy transition becomes an economic burden, which quickly turns into a political one, causing energy transition to stall. And this is an issue. And I think there is a political rhetoric where everybody saying, yes, we want renewable, etc. But then you see the industry saying, yeah, but the prices cannot go up. You can go renewable, but this doesn't work like this. There is no free lunch. Somebody has to pay that price. And so this is the challenge we have to face, and the technology is there, and there is an answer. So it's not a bleak picture, but it will revolutionize. And this is why I say I think the future of energy is going to go through a transformation, because if you live with the old model, it could become very challenging to fast track the energy transition. So we have been discussing this, with different utilities, New Brunswick Power, Nova Scotia Power, on the global level. I've participated in many seminars. We've done a lot of research, and we come to the conclusion that the only way to have a financially viable energy transition is to optimize the overall system. So you connect everything behind the meter, before the meter, and optimize, reduce the operational maintenance costs, And this is about the fourth industrial revolution, because digitalization can help us unlock this potential. Just to give you an idea, the world, what digitalization can do, the World Economic Forum a couple of years ago estimated that this conversion of physical and digital worlds will unlock $100 trillion of potential over the next 10 years. And I give you a very simple example, which we all know, and that's of the company Uber. What did Uber do? Uber is a digital company. And then we all, as car owners, when I came back from my office, my car is standing in my garage or on the street in front of my house. And this is an asset. And I have time, I can even drive, but where do I go? Because I have no. So what Uber did, it connected the physical and digital world. So it connected their asset, the digital platform, with the asset of the many, many private people who were looking for additional income to their cars, and gave them a possibility to make money. At the same time, adding value for consumers like us, because it was so convenient. You can see when the car is coming, it was competitive rates, and they unlocked value. And because of that, Uber is the largest transportation company in the world today. If you look at from market cap, more than BMW, and it doesn't own a single car. How interesting is that? And this is the power of digitalization. Airbnb has done the same, use other people's asset, connect people, and it's the largest accommodation company, doesn't own a single real estate. So this is what the power, and this is what we feel that we will need to apply also into the energy sector to unlock the potential which we have. So this is what I feel the future may look like, that energy will be crowdsourced. So there will be an encouragement for people to put solar panels, put battery storage in their houses, and whenever the peak will come, you will have a revenue model on your app, and it will be very simple. You can sell back your energy because you're not using, and you're optimizing it, and all the behind the meter will be visible. So we feel the role of the utility will convert from being the producer of electricity to more being playing the orchestra, be the central person, say, okay, I have enough power, I don't need your power, or I need power, it's a peak is coming, so please, you can sell. So and the rates will go up and down. So it will be a dynamic marketplace for everybody. And I tell you, it will get even more exciting when we go to the transportation sector and the business sector. And we already do talk about demand response. So what we all know from our home country about load shedding. But when we do load shedding in Pakistan or India or other countries, basically the feeder is switched off. So you have no electricity, zero. But the demand response means you still do load shedding, but you only switch off things in your home which maybe you don't need. So it's a very smooth kind of a load shedding. And we have piloted this in the province of New Brunswick. We use electric heaters, electric heaters, but also electric water heaters. So you could, in New Brunswick, the peak used to come in the morning because everybody got up and took a shower, and suddenly all the water heaters jumped in. And if they do demand response, they can start the electric heaters, preheat them at 5 a.m. and then 8 a.m. the peak can be shaved. So these are possibilities, but everything has to be connected, controlled, and operated. So this is how we see where the market will go. Very exciting. It doesn't fit in today's regulatory model, so the huge political change needs to happen. And actually, we are piloting this system in the province of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. So there are two communities, the community of Shediac, a very innovative community, the town of Shediac, who has offered their homes to pilot this. And then a very exciting project in Moncton, where there's a development, a real estate development, like we see in Toronto and Markham and Milton, a new development, which the houses already have solar panels and a battery pack. So they're kind of isolated, but they will work together to optimize the system. And it's a $93 million research and development project. And the good news is the government of Canada, federal government, is supporting it from the Strategic Innovation Fund with 36 million funding. So there is a political will of the government to solve this. It's a multi-year project. We are, I think, in the third year now. But I'm quite excited that we would be piloting this at least in 2 towns. So this is where I feel we see it going. So we all become prosumers, not only consumers. We will produce and we will consume. And then at the same time, we will have to use technology to reduce the cost of operation and maintenance. And I won't go into too much details, but it's again using technology. This is a picture, if you see an iPhone, where you can take a picture of a transformer, upload it, and artificial intelligence software behind it can optimize the utility process of replacing this transformer, identifying the location, identifying the fault, and also then, of course, fast tracking the diagnosis and the replacement of a transformer. And it also cuts the cost by 25%. So we are piloting in 2 areas already. This is being piloted. So very, very innovative technologies coming in. So this is the energy sector. So huge transformation. Now let's look at the transportation sector. Again, a huge transformation coming up. So it's an estimate. By 2030, 135 million global cars. And again, I say it's conservative. And why do I say that? Because there will be all the car manufacturers, they're like the name branded car manufacturers, about 20 to 25, all of them are coming out with electric car models. Some of the car manufacturers like BMW, etc., have said that beyond 2030, beyond a certain date, they will not even produce the combustion engine cars. They will all electric. So now it's a huge ramp up you're going to see, and it's going to be exponential, because already now, I encourage you to ask yourself a question. Will your next car, if you buy in 2-3 years, will be electric or fossil? You will have to think quite hard, because you may say, oh, I'm spending this $20,000-$30,000 to some in a technology which may get obsolete. And the good news is electric car is also cheaper to maintain. There's no oil. You can charge at home. You are not have to go to the tanks to the station. So this is coming, and this is going to be something like we saw in the camera industry, that we moved very quickly from what Kodak went through, a big company. What an irony that they invented the digital camera. But they said, no, it will take time. And boom, it came very, very fast, and the company is gone. So this is coming. And I think, so now for this, what will happen is, one, we need a lot of different kinds of products. And I'm just showing you a visual. You need car chargers, you need DC fast chargers along the highway, the buses, the transit is a big opportunity. So pantograph chargers, fleet chargers, so a huge opportunity, huge market opening up. But the bigger challenge is the availability of the infrastructure to change. And this is what I had the opportunity to also present to the government in the House of Commons. My view that just by subsidizing cars is not going to solve the challenge, because you have to have the infrastructure behind the cars. So the transformers, the power supply, because when you're fast charging a car, it is taking almost as much load or more load than your whole house with air conditioning running. So you have to figure this has to be figured out. And if everybody in a street will have electric car, most probably the transformer will not survive. So this has to be managed. The infrastructure, we already see the challenge with the condo buildings where there are 100 or 150 parking places, and the condo owners are very innovative. I want all parking places with electric chargers. Okay, guess what? Yes, you can buy electric chargers. Yes, you can put it, but if everybody will charge at the same time, the transformer outside may not survive, and you may have a blackout. So these are challenges which need to be tackled. So this is coming at us. But then you also see that going forward, there is a huge network because now when you charge it, it's also not for free, or it will not be for free. In current, some organizations give free charging, etc., to encourage electric mobility. But from stations to your home to through all along the highway, so there's a huge network will come, which will again go have data because it will need also transactional capabilities because you will pay with your credit card, etc. And it needs to be also because it will become such a big load that the energy sector will need to manage this. Because if imagine we have hundreds and millions of electric cars and all are being charged, what is the demand on electricity? How will that like exponentially grow? So this is what energy sector will have to manage. Also the security of this and also optimize this. So this is already coming. So there's a huge change, again, transformational coming towards us. And then also the low-hanging fruit today, where you see already, many organizations like STM in Montreal, Translink, Markham, Guelph, they're all going electric buses. Already hundreds of buses in service, and they also need to be charged. So what we see is that the charging depot where the buses will be charged will become actually resiliency elements. When you have blackouts, like we had the Sandy storm in New York, you saw there was a huge blackout. But if New York were to have like 20 bus stations, these bus stations, if they are designed as microgrids, could act as resiliency elements because the bus batteries also have charging capacity. They have electricity, could put back energy into the grid. So this is also a very exciting element. It will strengthen the energy sector. And just take the example of the school buses. If all of them will become electric, we have hundreds and thousands of them. They are only used between 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. or in the afternoon when they're picking up the kids. And the rest, in the whole weekend, they're standing there. A huge amount of battery power. If you could bring that power into the grid, it could really support facilitate energy transition because it could balance the intermittent nature of the renewable energy sources. So if the wind is not blowing, then the school buses could provide at least a portion of that electricity which is required. So now let's come to the infrastructure sector. Now we're talking about decarbonization and we're talking about climate change. So now 41% of the energy worldwide is used in the buildings, and four out of five buildings are not up to standard, up to the green standards which you would wish. So there's a huge energy consumption which has to be managed, which could be optimized. So this is another area which needs to be managed. So what's happening is this buildings or the infrastructure sector is, and I always like to give the compare it with the cars. If we all know, like 10-20 years ago, our car basically didn't have much. It was a key, a gearbox, and if you were lucky, like let's go back 30 years, you had a radio in there or a cassette player. But now if you look at today's car, it has an interface. That's your navigation system. You can connect your iPhone or AirPlay or iPlay. And that is really powerful because it has music, it has navigation, it has climate control, it has all those features. And that is your interface with the car. And this is exactly going to happen, is happening already, where the building will have an interface to you. And this will optimize, and I'll show you a kind of an example from our own buildings. So this is the app. It's a Comfy. It's a Siemens owned company, which basically is for me today my interface to my office. So when I have to go to the office, I do the health check with it. I can book my office space. I can see who all is in there, what's going on. But it's a sensor-based technology which goes in the lights, and which also does, if you look at the right side picture, it can tell you the heat density. So the density of utilization of the building. The red is showing where the people are moving around. And an interesting thing happens when you put this technology in, that you can optimize the utilization of the building. So in many, many buildings where we have put this technology in the offices, the management came to the conclusion of those offices that their building is not utilized, only 40% utilized. Because if you look at that picture, especially where there's a white element, nobody ever went there. And we also did some research, and it's there. That's the sun comes there. So it was sometimes very hot, and in summers people didn't want to sit there, so they chose sitting somewhere else. Same with the meeting rooms. There's always a complaint in every office. There are too less meeting rooms. But when you get this technology, you see, 30% of the meeting rooms are not even being used. Or so this can optimize space by optimizes usage. It has dimming. So if it's a sunny day, it will automatically dim the lights, etc. So I can give my own example. My lighting cost in the building, which you see behind me, went down by 60% in the rooms where we installed this technology. So there's a huge potential in the buildings. But coming back to the energy sector, all these buildings, like we will also be putting a microgrid in our buildings. So we will have solar, we will have storage, we have electric chargers, we have all this. So suddenly the buildings become an active part of the energy system. So there's a convergence of the infrastructure sector and the electricity sector. So every building becomes a prosumer. I talked about the bus depot, but going forward, there are cars, there's charging, there's solar, there's micro wind, all these technologies are coming. So again, convergence, again, a big change. So this is again what's coming to us, and I talked about the digitalization, the power of digitalization, and we are actually showcasing this at the expo in Dubai. The expo exhibition is pretty big. It's 130 buildings. So we are all connecting them to a cloud platform. And there actually we are creating a digital twin of the expo city. And once you have the digital twin, you can do a lot, because you can really see what's going on. You get insights which you normally don't get, and then you can optimize. It's actually, I've not gone and seen there. I hope to go this winter when things open up. But I've got a demo. It's so fascinating what the UAE is trying to do. Their motto is they want to make a happy city. So you can see the impact of air quality on the mood of the people. You can see what's the water quality, what is the sun doing, how is the temperatures, what's the comfort level. You immediately see, it's very exciting studies have been happening around the world, that we talk in the buildings, we talk about, we will save, like if the bulb energy cost is less, 5% cost, but the biggest asset in the building are the people. So if you have a wrong temperature, they are sweating and it's things. So your productivity goes down. And if you could improve the atmosphere in the building, the productivity goes up, and that's far more powerful also from economic perspective than just the electricity cost, because if people are motivated there. So a huge potential in the buildings as well. So now I come back to one of the topics. It all looks very, very exciting and a lot of potential, but it all can be unlocked if all these systems I'm showing you are also cyber secure. And now I want to just, I think I hope I'm in time. And Nazrin, let me know if I'm going over time. I will cut it short.
No, you are good.
Okay.
Continue. We are enjoying.
Okay, thanks. So something about cybersecurity. So there's an estimation that the cost of cybersecurity attacks is $600 billion a year. Imagine that's 1% of the global GDP. And now I want to bring your attention to a very important topic because cybersecurity is not cybersecurity. We have to differentiate between IT cybersecurity and OT, what we call operational critical infrastructure cybersecurity, because they are two different things. I told you in the beginning that the Internet of Things, which we have experienced in our personal lives, is now going to into the industry. So there are 4.4 billion people connected to the Internet of Things. So the global population is 7.6 billion. And out of this, I think 4.4 billion people are connected. The rest of the 3 billion people are not connected. In Africa or in rural areas, they're not connected. But when Internet of Things is now coming to the machines, there will be billions of devices. There's an estimate by the next 9 years, 29 billion devices will be connected to the Internet of Things. So you can imagine the revolution we saw in ourselves, how the industrial revolution will impact. And now I said there's two different cybersecurities. So let's talk about IT cybersecurity. So if an IT cybersecurity attack comes, my data is compromised. So let's take an example. Somebody hacks into my phone and then they read my personal messages, and I wrote something to my wife or to my friend and it gets exposed. Or my banking information gets exposed. Yeah, it's a bad situation, it's compromised, I have to manage this. But now imagine you're driving through a traffic light. Imagine this, you're driving, traffic light, and now the signal is green on both sides. What does that mean? You understand? Cyber security of operation technology is serious. These machines, they are moving, the grids, the power plants. If somebody hacks them, the consequence is high. And this is, I think, what I think the industry is looking at. These are the NERC standards which are being defined. The BC has defined BCUC, the British Columbia has defined standards, the mandatory standards. So this is another opportunity from a business perspective, a threat, but also an opportunity which we have to secure the critical infrastructure as we move along, because we have to move into a secured infrastructure. Yes, there's a lot of potential, but we cannot get carried away. And now I'm talking a bit maybe negative things, but I still want to, I think we all responsible engineers need to understand that we cannot get carried away with the potential. We first have to secure and then unlock the potential. This is my first. The second element I will close with, and food for thought for all of us, my presentation with is, digitalization is great. It's going to unlock energy transition. But it's, as the word said, digital, and we all learn digital at least in my universities, the first thing I remember was that it's 0 and 1. There is nothing in between. It's not analog, 0 and 1. So you're in or you are out. And so what I'm trying to say is that digitalization can also be disruptive. And we all, felt very happy. We say we all are working from home. Just before the session starts, we had a short discussion, and somebody was saying, yeah, I'm so used to working from home. But, also our children are working, studying from home. But imagine not every person in the society can afford, if they have 3 or 4 children, 4 laptops. So, and this is what we call the digital divide, that, not everybody can participate in this digital economy. Yes, we are lucky that we have computers and we can do it. Or a good internet connection. Who can afford, not everybody can afford a $200 bill on the internet per month to have the capability to participate in internet education. So this is something we have to imagine and also be very careful in the digital divide that we take the society with us. And that's why at least my company, I've been distributing laptops, a lot of thousands of them in the area. Our laptops which we use at the end of life, they're still good for a student to work them. We clean them up and we distribute them. That we all think about before we unlock the potential on the divide, the digital divide, which it creates. I told you 3.3 people have no access to internet. So basically they're cut off from whatever we are enjoying, streaming and e-shopping and Amazon and everything. So with those thoughts, I know it's nothing to do with the subject energy transition, but I would like to leave you with those as responsible citizens. And I'll give it back to Nazmi, you or Khalid, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Faisal. This was fascinating, exciting.
Thank you.
Nasli, you want to say a few words, or we go into our question answers?
Yeah, I think we can go to question answer session. I saw many good questions.
Yeah. So the way Faisal we will organize it, this is that Kashan and I, we will read up the questions from the chat box, and you will give your thoughts and opinions on those. I'll kickstart that. Looking at how you were showcasing the transitioning, one question came in was that into my mind is that, based on Siemens' global presence, can you give examples of some of the challenges other countries have faced in energy transition? And if you see any specific country or region which is ahead of others in making this transition?
Yeah. So maybe I give the example from where I came here is Germany, where I lived, and I saw the energy transition unfold. I think one thing they faced, so they were very committed, and the society was committed to do that. But what happened is that the energy costs increased. So the energy cost in Europe, in Germany, is 38 kilowatt per euro cent, 38 cents per kilowatt hour. And now you compare with Manitoba, 7 cents. I think we have 12 cents Canadian dollar, and I'm talking about euro. So there's a huge cost which they felt, but quite admirable the political and the will of the people to take this cost, because Germany is a country which is industrial. Country is the biggest industrial exporter, or now number 2 after China, because they took that cost and they optimized the operations. So there was a lot of benefit in greening things. So when it's so fascinating because you asked about example, like I mean when I go back home and visit my relatives, and I sometimes see it's a hot day, air conditioning is on, but I see the window is open. So a lot of things are energy is going out. So in Germany, because they had to reduce the electricity consumption, when you build a house, they come and they pressure it. So there is not an iota of leakage in your house and this is why when I was in Germany and the inside temperature was 20 degrees or something, and outside was for a week 35 degrees, my temperature in the home didn't go up 35. And when I go back home, the load shedding starts, air conditioner stops. In 5 minutes, I'm at 30 degrees. So this is a very important. So they looked at the building standards, etc. So this is one experience I want to share. So yes, the prices went up, but the efficiency they improved like crazy. The second thing, what of course that was challenging because of the intermittent nature and because of the increase of the privately owned utility assets, they have also experienced negative prices. Like I think in the pandemic, we all saw negative oil prices in Alberta, and everybody was shocked. So because the oil was in the trucks, and then they say, every minute of the truck costs. So they say, okay, I pay you money to take oil, and this is what happens happened in Germany. That because it's very inefficient to switch on and switch off nuclear or fossil big large power plants, there was a surplus of electricity, and they come many times in a situation where they have to pay to sell energy, which is of course resulted in standard assets, because when you invest in a multi-billion dollar power plant, the banks have a business model. It's not like a charity organization. So now if you cannot make that money, you can standard assets. And I've seen very, very like top of the line power plants, highly efficient combined cycle power plants getting standard. So that is these are the challenges that they have faced in Germany, and I thought I'd share firsthand because I saw that. And they are also a bit of another challenge as well, that their political will was not only towards fossil fuel. Their political will was also to get out of nuclear, because they believe that long term it's not maybe the right thing. So but we all know that nuclear fuel, if there's no leakage and there's no issue, it's very clean. It's zero emissions. So as they shut down nuclear and they had to, in the transition phase, even despite all these efforts, the emissions went up for a while, or went up. So which was quite ironic, but they think for long term it will be good. So that's one of the experience I would share. I think from what I look around, I think Finland is doing quite well. They are very innovative. Uh, I see Denmark. So Denmark, I actually made a note before I came to this presentation. Denmark committed to have 50% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% renewable by 2050. And I was looking that 2 years ago, they already had 42% of all energy renewable.
Wow.
So, and they are saying that we are investing in our future generations. And because once you put on that infrastructure, it becomes free. Air is free, solar power is free. Yes, it could be expensive when you're putting it in, etc. But they said, for us, for our children, for our future generation, electricity will be free. That's what we want. And
Amazing.
doing it, it's a proud community. So I'm quite, but there's a catch there. So they have now very high prices. So they're even higher than Germany. They're 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Uh, and the catch is that they are very well connected with the European grid. So when their wind is not blowing, they can tap into other assets. But if every country, if their neighbor were to do the same, or Europe would do the same, then it will not work. So they have capturing on their being a first mover. So they have a very solid backup. But it's a something I think very, very interesting. I want to share. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Kashan, do you have questions from the audience that you want to present?
Sure. So we have comments and questions on chat box. So I'll start with a comment from our member Tanveer Akhtar. So he's saying like solar and wind is not reliable for industry. How to make it reliable in challenging and complex? How to make it reliable is challenging and complex. Grid reliability is to maintain voltage and current within a specified range. Wind and solar may challenge this being on and off and collapse of voltage.
Yeah.
So this was a comment. And
Let's go to next one.
Thank you very much for this question. I think it's a very, very nice, good question. And this is a very valid question because also, if you look at areas where a lot of wind power is put in, there's some issues on power quality, and there's increase in static variable compensation project, SPCs, and FACTS projects. So I think what we have to understand that we will still need, it will not be all wind like Denmark. We need a combination. So there will be a use of hydro, there will be a use of nuclear still going forward for many, many years in our lifetime. So they will have a solid base load. How we can compensate this is, again, as I said, by connecting everything. And I give you an example of a very innovative project which was done in Brooklyn, New York, where they put basically listen to the founder, Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, whose suggestion is to buy a Tesla power pack, buy a solar panel, and then put it on your home, and then you're kind of independent, because when the sun will, you will charge in the morning your battery, and then you can discharge in the night, so you can be kind of on your own. And if you put all this in 10 homes, then these 10 homes start becoming independent. However, if you connect these 10 homes together, for the same load, you may need 6 batteries and 7 panels, because the load profile of every home is different. Imagine I'm somebody who works outside of my home. So my load profile is more in the evening when I come back. My neighbor is a retired person. He or she, during the day consumes a lot of electricity, maybe not so much in the night. So there lies one answer to optimize, because maybe the wind is blowing in, not blowing in one city, but it could be blowing in another one. So you could, then that's the concept we call of the virtual power plant. So we need to aggregate these assets. And second idea is that other renewable sources like geothermal, and we're talking about hydrogen. So the hope is that they will come in the energy mix, and also storage could play a big role to stabilize the system. But this is a very valid question, a very valid challenge which still needs to be solved. But I think it lies in the virtual power plant and the combination of these technologies.
Excellent. So going in the same direction, we have a question from Mr. Quran Ahmed. So, we all talk about storage as being a battery-only option. Do you see technologies other than battery storage, or battery storage is the only method of storing electrical energy?
No, there are actually many different ways to store energy. Battery is one, which we do lithium batteries or different batteries we use. There's a very interesting project going on in one of the universities here, McMaster University, which is thermal storage. So they are storing thermal heat. So because energy is not only electricity, but it's also heating. So there's thermal storage projects. There are also mechanical storage projects. So there is I saw a presentation on a very simple project, which when the electricity is readily available, they have huge bricks, and they upload these bricks on a crane. And when the electricity is not, they let the brick fall down, and they run a turbine with it. Another example of storage is the pump storage power plants, where you pump the water. So it's a hydropower plant, and you pump the water on the hill when the electricity is cheap, and when the electricity is expensive, you let it go, and the hydropower plant. And actually, that brings me to an exciting. I just mentioned that Germany was in negative. They had to pay, and there was something very interesting going on. The neighbor country of Germany is Austria, and they have all of us know Alps. So there are mountains, and the Austrians are very innovative and very sharp. So they all have on their mountains, small hills, power plants, pump storage power plant. So when Germany is giving energy for free or paying you for the energy on Sunday, they pump store the water up, and when the German industry kicks off, they sell the same energy to Germany for a higher cost. So it's also a business model. So there are other ways. Of course, pump storage power is a very expensive way to do it. It's always about the cost time, but there are many other ways. There are also, I've seen spring technologies. So you load a spring and then you unload a spring. There are quite a few technologies. And hydrogen is actually one of it's to run hydrogen energy. on itself, at least for a foreseeable future, is not economically viable. But it becomes economically viable when you talk about, we call it power to X. That means when in the night, like in Alberta, we have a lot of wind power, there's a lot of wind going, but when the night, when the energy is not being used, you could use that wind power to, in an electrolyzer, to create hydrogen and then use that. So those are other forms where you can have storage. I hope that answers.
Yeah, excellent. Kashan?
Yeah, so following the chat, I have two questions from Javed Inam. I'll start with the first one and I'll ask the second as well. And then you can please answer on those. What future do you see for power transmission distribution without the use of copper aluminum conductors? This is the first one. And the other one is, what are the chances of controlling political burden as described on page 14 of your presentation?
Yeah, very interesting question. I think at the moment the future of transmission is still bright in a way because of the old installed base, and so this has to be upgraded, because even if I have solar panel and everything, none of us will be willing to cut our connection to the pole because we rely on that. So it's still there, but I think eventually when the distribution, when we all revert to, if this goes in that way, into distributed energy, and everybody has a small power capacity or become a prosumer, the load on the transmission could go down. But in the foreseeable future, till we are there, it will still go up because of the electric vehicles. It will more demand is required. So I think there's still a future for transmission. The focus will change on from transmission to distribution, because all these assets, the distributed energy assets, are medium to low voltage assets. So they will be added to the distribution grid. And we all know that there has been a lack of investment in the distribution grid. So should be, in my opinion, a big investment in the distribution grid, and more focus coming towards distribution. So T&D will still continue. Could you repeat the second question? Sorry, I want to make sure that I understood the second question right. You asked two questions, I think.
Yeah, the second question was, what are the chances of controlling political burden, as you described it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because I think if the politicians understand that there is a solution which could facilitate energy transition, it will require political will. It will require change in regulatory. It will require a regulatory reform, and it will be a journey. But I think more and more people are understanding it, because it's a step change. Because now, if you look at a utility, the revenue model of the utility is to put assets in the system. You put the asset in the rate base and earn. Now, what we are saying is crowdsource it. Don't buy any assets. Let everybody else buy the asset. You just manage the asset. So, but if we go through the current regulatory situation, then utility will say, no way, man, I will get bankrupt. Where will I earn money? So then we have to allow a transactional business model to say utility, like you become like Uber. So if somebody's selling and you are orchestrating it, you get your cut in there. If I sell $1 of electricity, 10 cents go to the utility. If they understand that, then utilities can really manage their costs. But I also don't know where it will go here, because it's it's not easy. It becomes very political. We saw that in Ontario. I think a lot of people are from Ontario, and you saw Catherine Wynne just go out because of, she put a lot of wind and prices went up, and so there needs a political will. But if we, as an industry, can come up with a solution and explain it to the politicians, I think they will be willing, because there is a political will. Because this project I mentioned to you, the 36 million we went from federal government, I got the opportunity to present this project to a lot of senior ministers and even to the PM. And there is a will. They want, everybody wants, and both parties. I had the opportunity to talk to both premiers. There is a will, but of course, they don't want to jeopardize the industry. And so I think we still need to convince people. We have to work in the associations together, associations like like NEDAC and UAT and all the other industries which we have in Canada to convince the people, show a business case. And if we can show that, and that is why the project in New Brunswick for me and Nova Scotia is very, very exciting, because we will show on a real life asset. And I admire the utilities there. They are letting us play, or they are themselves testing on a real city. So, and then if you can demonstrate that look, this is, it can be done, I think it could be copied.
Excellent. So,
Khalid,
yeah, go ahead.
I just saw that questions are pouring.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you can,
we can do, yeah. All right.
And Faisal.
Yeah, I guess I will be short with answers.
Yeah, there are 13, 14 messages. I can see.
All right. So next one,
Okay.
you shortly touched on it. Anything more you would add to hydrogen as a fuel? This is from Ghaus Rizvi Saab. Once an economic solution for its production is found using chemical catalysts, if you feel that hydrogen, what that future looks like and what would be the time frame?
Absolutely. I think hydrogen has a future. I mean, absolutely, hydrogen has a future. It is maybe even better than battery storage, because even digging out lithium costs also energy. So it has definitely I think my estimation of time frame is, I mean, we can talk about blue hydrogen or green hydrogen. Green hydrogen means everything is hydrogen, or
Yeah.
blue hydrogen is that even if you're in a gas pipeline, reduce the percentage of gas and maybe put more hydrogen in, mix that. So so I think I personally think till it's commercially viable, I would say at least 5 to 10 years it will take. And
Okay.
that is the time frame we have to work with other technologies. But I do feel we have seen this, when wind power came or solar power, it was like, oh, wind is so expensive. Now, a solar power is cheaper than putting a combined cycle 1,000 megawatt power plant.
Right.
This is the hope that the price point of hydrogen will come down. At the moment, it's not there, but if the political will be there, if we will be putting in, I do hope it will come down.
Good.
I apologize. There is a question before from Shamsul Arifin. It's about what steps are being taken to upgrade the existing electricity distribution infrastructure in North America.
Yeah, I think utilities are investing quite a bit into upgrading these infrastructures. So I don't know exactly how their budgets are, but we do see there is investment going on, and I think people realize also resiliency has become an element, especially with the weather-related events. So I cannot give you an answer, but I do see the utilities have budgets for that.
Okay. Do you also see, again, a question in the same context from Asad Asghar is that, do you see investments in power generation to support this, gigawatts of needed for managing the electric car revolution that is coming in? Do you see utilities investing in power plant?
Yeah, there is investment. We see quite a lot of investment in wind. I think people there has to be an investment because the loads will go up. So it will be a matter of demand and supply. So yes, we see investment. I mean, if you look at British Columbia, they're already putting the Site C project. I know it has overruns, etc. But that will be a huge source of power. We are very lucky in Canada. Quebec has a lot of power,
Right.
hydropower. Manitoba has a lot of power. So I think from a Canadian point of view, should not be that concerned because there's a lot of power and nuclear power is there.
Right.
But there has to be investment, and I think this will go hand in hand, and the system operators will do. They will be investing.
Awesome.
Thank you. Another good question from Javed Inam. What are the possibility of use of lightning flashes to consumable energy in future economically?
Oh, I have to be honest here. I don't know, but it's a great idea. I don't know how, but yeah, we have a lot of lightning in Canada, and I think I've read about some technologies where you can, but I'm not qualified. I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. I apologize for that.
No worries. Do you see the usage? So next question is from Saeed Hussain. I will paraphrase it. Do you see the usage of electrical power to electricity to power airplanes, and this moving into the air sector? The electrical.
You mean the airplanes?
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, yes. Actually, Siemens started with the first plane some years ago, and we had already a lot of test flights with that plane. It was a Cessna converted to an electric motor. I think that will come. It has a huge advantage because when we are flying into certain, especially in Europe, you would sometimes see that you have to fly in very awkward times. The reason for that being that the European Union doesn't allow, or at least some countries in the European Union do not allow planes to land in the time when people are sleeping. So
Right.
you cannot land up between 11 and 6. So I think a hybrid model will be one will start first. So just like with the cars, so when they are landing, they will switch to electric engines. So
Okay.
there is no noise, and then they are taking off. They could be. So I think that is for sure will come, because as the confidence in the electric cars will come, because car is the same. Of course, plane is a bit more risky. If it engine stops, you would fall down. But as more data will come, I'm 100% sure that hybrid planes will come. And the trains as well. When you people who live in Toronto, when you go from Mississauga or from Oakville or Hamilton, you drive to Toronto downtown. It takes 20 minutes from Oakville to there, but then it takes 10 minutes from when we reach downtown to go to Union Station. It's all because you cannot make that much noise. So if that could also change things, also in the trains.
Right. Kashan?
So, yeah, so the next question is from Kashif Ali. Will necessary improvements in infrastructure can be made at same pace to cope with energy transition from fossil fuel to electric, keeping in view aggressive targets set by different industries?
Mm. Yeah, I think this can be done because it is also poses some efficiencies. So there is a business case, and I think the government is also, we have seen the stimulus packages, and we call in Canada at least the green recovery. So I do believe that because it has benefit, financial benefit, as well as let's say environmental benefits, people, and there is now carbon costs coming up. So all this combined, the atmosphere is there to upgrade the buildings. People will do that.
Good. Yeah, there's a huge number of questions. We'll have to skip a few which have been already answered. You had mentioned the scope of nuclear energy in the future. In the foreseeable future, it has better chances of being utilized across the globe where we can maintain safety and security. So I think you had answered that. The next question quickly, Zoha Sajad. What is the most difficult element to establish, maintain for renewable energy security, energy equity, environmental sustainability within, these are competing sometimes requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, so if I understand the question, you are saying, it's expensive to put renewable energy, and then how do you make money? How does the business case?
Yep.
Case I think this is where then the political will comes to there a lot of places where there's support. but it's also becoming a business case to do that. It's always challenging because these projects are it's like a financing, banks are involved, etc. So you have to show some returns. So there is an economic element to that. But what helps is the story which I told you about Denmark, is that if you put a power plant, a fossil power plant, all your life you have to fill it with gas or fuel or oil. Wind is free. So yes, it could be expensive in the beginning, but if you look over the 30-year cycle, it starts making sense, and that is the reason a lot of wind power. Like if you look in the US, the Midwest, they were putting like 10 gigawatt of wind a year, and now with Biden administration, I think it's going to come back in the same way. Even when the PTC, that was the subsidy to support wind power, was removed, and the Trump administration came, which was not very pro, at least politically, still the wind power kept on going because there is a business case.
Right.
So
Do you see a headwind against, not against, so, do you see, or would you predict what is happening to oil and gas now may happen to the wind and solar industry in next 30, 50 years from down in the future? Is there something that today you see is going to compete with that and say that, that's obsolete, and this is a better way of generating
I think
energy?
it's a journey we are on. I personally believe, and that's my personal belief, that even these technologies are will, like, if you look back, all these technologies gets obsolete. So at some point we will say, oh, what did we do? We made solar plants. It's such a consumer effort. This will also come to that because maybe somebody comes with a very innovative technology, like which is like a small box and it creates energy and it's something totally different. But at the moment, we don't see it. But I think to your question, it will at some point come. I think oil and gas industry is a bit of a different story because it's become environmental, and we say one environment, one planet, one life. So it's one environment, and people are saying, "Oh no, this is very not great. Fossil fuels are not good for our future or for future generations." Yeah, but for sure, technology will come. I don't know what it will be, but I'm sure it will come.
Excellent. So we have time for just a couple of questions. Kashan, you pick one up from the list, and I will ask the last question, and then we'll have Nazli conclude.
Uh, we have like, I don't know, 25 new messages I can see.
I know, but we're just
So maybe
coming to
you
the end.
guys can read and combine some of them. And if we are over 5-10 minutes, we should be okay because I don't want to miss.
We'll have to ask Faisal, do you have a hard stop at the end of?
No, I don't have now.
Oh, okay. So then we can continue.
Yeah,
Okay.
but not, I think we should ask our members to stop asking questions
that's okay.
now.
Kashan, next question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Faisal, for accommodating these questions. So I'll continue with this question. I think it was a previous question from Corinne Ahmed. It's a continuation of that. Would you have a situation that you produce more energy than you can store? What would be the solution? This may be a situation when people will start sending energy to the grid system.
Yeah, I mean, we already have situations where we have more energy than in demand. And this is the, like I gave you the example in, if you have wind power in some of the areas, in the night the wind blows, but unfortunately the load cycle is opposite. So the load is in the morning and there's so much energy, so the wind, so they just decouple it. So this energy is wasted. So we already have that situation. I think storage will can help those kind of situations, so you don't waste it and you use it. But it's a valid point. So if there will be too much capacity, if everybody will become a prosumer, it would drop the price because it's a demand and supply. So this happens if you're in an open market, like I said, in Germany, it became negative pricing. So yeah, this can happen if we all put solar panels, solar shingles on our homes, and everybody puts it. It could happen that we will have a surplus, but then it will give us more economic power to do more things. In the foreseeable future, we need every energy because of the transportation, the electric vehicle revolution. So I don't see this happening in the near future, but at some point it will happen.
Excellent. So next question is regarding digitalization. Digital twin is good for health management and diagnostics of industrial assets, and building assets or any other assets. What is the percentage stage of digitalization of combined cycle power plants that Siemens is managing? Do you know if there are any power plants where digital twins have been created
Yeah,
or near? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we have, for example, Siemens. Now we have a subsidy, Siemens Energy, and it was we just created the subsidy last year. But before we put a power plant with Sask Power in Saskatchewan, and it's a I won't call it digital twin, but the technology is there where you have sensors in the machines and you can do usage based maintenance. So it's like
Okay.
I give you can basically what is a twin is a lot of sensors in the machine, and then you create that and you simulate the actual asset, and this is technology is already available with
Right.
Siemens Energy. Actually,
Khalid, go ahead.
we're working also a digital twin of the human being in our healthcare sector.
Right.
It's,
Oh, that's also Siemens is
yeah, Siemens Healthineers. It's just a vision. I mean,
right.
so it could happen. I'm just it's not there, but it could come. Right?
Sure. Yes, Kashan.
Yeah, so the next question is from Rizvi. When we compare the project cost and profit for green infrastructure projects, there is a huge benefit to the owner and EPC. Putting burden on the consumers, please comment on this.
Could you please repeat, Hassan, the project again, just so I fully understand it?
Yeah, so when we compare the project cost and profit for green infrastructure projects, there is a huge benefit to the owner
Mm,
and which is putting the burden on the consumers.
mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, this is what we saw in Ontario as well. So the prices went up. Hmm. So this is why it's a valid point, and this is exactly why the political issues and the economic burden starts, because it costs initially more, but I gave you the example of Denmark, which should have to look longer, and this is why we feel that this platform is required to optimize the overall system, so our renewable asset policies in a way that it doesn't become a burden. And this is where digitalization can unlock.
Good. Is Siemens, how is the Siemens engagement in Pakistan helping them with the power crisis there? And do you think there is a generation crisis or a distribution crisis there? And how is Siemens engaged there?
I am not unfortunately fully linked in the details of the Pakistani grid. So I won't be able to comment
Yeah,
on
no worries, no worries. Next question is, has Siemens done any analysis of transmission losses versus grid infrastructure costs so that,
yeah.
that analysis, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point, especially Canada is a mining country, and sometimes we have mines which are in remote locations, and even First Nations are in remote locations. There's a lot of remote sites, and there are business cases for microgrids versus putting a transmission line to those remote locations. So definitely there's a big opportunity, and this is being worked on.
Good.
So a good question for young electrical engineers, like how can young electrical engineers can prepare for future challenges in future energy paradigm, like green energy and this carbon free?
Yeah, I think the first thing you can do is to put a battery pack and a solar in your own home. and learn. It's quite exciting to have your own small microgrid, we call it nanogrid, in your home. I think I would encourage as a young engineer to read about it, to see what the technologies are, and familiarize yourself, because that is the future. And this knowledge is not readily available, so it's also a great opportunity for young graduates.
All right, so last question from me and from the audience is, what role can electric vehicle play in the future grid system?
Yeah, so Khalid, that's an interesting question. As I talked about the school buses, if you recognize that every electric car also has a battery, and if you think of back home, we all have those UPS. How does UPS is running? That's UPS running from a car battery or truck battery. So that's a lot of power every car will have, every electric car will have. Till now, the challenge has been a lot of the manufacturers do not allow the car to charge back into the grid, what we call vehicle to grid, because they say if you will do that, we will take off the warranty from the battery. Now, like some of the Japanese manufacturers, and I understand also Ford, uh, or some American manufacturers are coming now and making those bold move to say, okay, you can go vehicle to grid. And this will be, if this happens, the cars are a huge source to manage the renewables, because the issue of the renewables is the peak management. And if you could say we have 100,000 cars, and if there's a peak and the wind is not blowing, no worries, we will charge it from our cars. It could be a game changer, and I think it will come.
Yeah, I was just reading up on the Ford 150, has 6.8, 6.2 kilowatt hour battery. It can run my home for a week if power goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was excellent, eye-opening, very, very interesting, and the way you presented and the questions answered. We, thank you from all of us, and from the audience as well. I'll ask Nasli to conclude the program.
Yeah, Faisal, I think audience still like to listen from you, but I think we have to conclude now. We will invite you again, maybe. I really enjoyed this presentation and learned a lot about the importance of energy transition. It's not my subject, but it seems very interesting, and really like to learn more. I think I enjoyed it, so I'm sure all the audience enjoyed it too. I just want to thank you for, again, thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule. Today's working day, and we are still sitting here. It's almost 8 o'clock. I also like to thank all the audience, all the attendees. Thank you very much for attending and asking questions. Really, I'm still feeling excitement about this this much knowledge. I also like to request my members, NEDAC members or non-members. I know there are some UETians also, and some of them are from NED-NA, North America. Please send us your feedback about this webinar and share your future topic of interest, so we can organize our events based on your interest and your needs. Just don't want to take more time. Just want to thank everyone. I think, Khalid, we can conclude now.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Nazi, I'd like to also thank you for inviting me, and it was a privilege to present to all of you who have participated. I hope it was useful, and thank you so much again for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And looking forward to have you again, inshallah, in the near future. Thank you. Shukriya and salam alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam, everyone. Thank you.